The studio lights burned hot, brighter than ever, and the silence before the broadcast was so thick you could almost feel it pressing on your chest. Millions of viewers were tuned in to watch what was billed as a friendly debate, but everyone in the room could sense it was about to erupt into something far more dramatic. California Governor Gavin Newsom sat on one side of the stage, sharp suit, flawless smile, but his eyes betrayed tension. Across from him sat Tyrus, the towering commentator with a reputation for asking the hard questions no one else dared. The atmosphere was electric, cameras blinked red, mics went live, and the first question cut through the air like a blade. "Governor Newsom," Tyrus began, his tone even but loaded with quiet fire, "people are calling you out for what they see as double standards. Do you have the courage to address them right now, live?" The audience gasped softly. This wasn't the scripted opening either man had prepared for. Newsom's smile twitched. This wasn't going to be the usual political sparring match. As the questions rolled on, Tyrus grew bolder, leaning forward, bringing up stories of everyday Californians. A single mother in Fresno struggling with rent, a firefighter in Oakland working 2 jobs just to afford groceries. Tyrus painted their struggles not as statistics but as human lives slipping through the cracks. Each story was a mirror held up to Newsom's policies, and each mirror cracked another piece of his composure. The governor's jaw tightened. His voice, once measured and polished, started to falter, rising in pitch with every exchange. By the halfway mark, the conversation wasn't about party lines anymore. It was about empathy, leadership, and responsibility. The tension boiled over. Newsom slammed his hand on the desk, his voice trembling not just with anger but with frustration. "You don't understand the pressure," he snapped, his tone almost breaking. For a moment, the set went silent. Even Tyrus hesitated. This wasn't a politician on autopilot anymore, this was a man reaching his limit. And then, something unexpected happened. Instead of doubling down, Tyrus leaned back and softened his voice. "Governor," he said quietly, "I do understand pressure. I've lived it. I grew up with nothing. I fought for every inch. That's why I'm fighting for them." His words landed heavier than any accusation could. The crowd, which had been tense and divided, grew still. The governor blinked, his eyes moist, the veneer of political armor finally cracking. The exchange transformed in real time. Newsom, breathing heavily, stopped interrupting. He listened, really listened, as Tyrus continued, telling stories of people he'd met, the struggles they'd confided in him, and the hope they still held despite everything. Instead of trying to defend every criticism, Newsom began to respond as a person, not a politician. He admitted the system was broken. He admitted he didn't have all the answers. He even thanked Tyrus for bringing the voices of ordinary people to the table. The host cut to a commercial break, but the cameras kept rolling for online streams. Off-air, the two men spoke quietly. Newsom asked for Tyrus's input on policy ideas. Tyrus, surprised, offered to connect him with some of the communities he'd mentioned. By the time they came back on air, the mood had shifted entirely. Instead of a shouting match, the closing segment turned into a discussion about solutions, housing reforms, mental health support, local economic programs. The audience, once polarized, began applauding. It wasn't because either man won, it was because both had laid down their swords. When the broadcast ended, clips of the confrontation and the unexpected reconciliation went viral. Viewers across the country commented not on who destroyed whom, but on the rare glimpse of authenticity and humility from both sides. The story became a symbol of what could happen when public figures actually listened to criticism, and when critics offered solutions instead of just outrage. Weeks later, the governor's office announced a pilot program inspired by some of the very stories Tyrus had brought up on air. Tyrus visited Sacramento to stand alongside Newsom as the initiative launched. Cameras flashed again, but this time the energy was different, hopeful, collaborative, forward-looking. In the end, the segment that began as a clash turned into a case study of transformation. Gavin Newsom's explosion wasn't the end of his career, it was the breaking point that allowed honesty and change to pour through. And Tyrus's exposé wasn't a hit job, it was a plea for empathy. Together, they showed that even in the glare of live TV, real change can begin when people drop their masks and choose dialogue over destruction. Even the loudest confrontations can hold the seeds of understanding. When leaders truly listen, and critics truly care, change stops being a headline and starts becoming a reality.